Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Chris, and welcome back to once again our episode of the Big Brother Podcast with my good friend Gocubs 711. Damn it! God damn it! One of your greatest hits. That's I'll be on the that's why. What's the that's why I call music CDs. That's gonna be that's number one on the next edition.
Awesome. Thank you for including me.
Yeah. How's it going? We had quite I would say it's a boring week, but everything pretty much went as we kind of expected once we found out who the head.
It was so relaxing to watch because Jose was gone.
Right. So let's start out right out of the gate with the Sunday episode, which opened up with the head of household competition. So everyone was still climbing over things, balancing, and putting balls in the big
wherever the
columns.
balls.
Yeah. And
I sure don't.
And then all of a sudden, it was like this back and forth battle between I believe Team Unicorn and
Category 4.
Category 4, and then James threw the competition, and then which caused a bunch of their balls to fall out of their column, and James being eliminated. And then Category 4 ran away with it, and Paulie was the person that was chosen to get the big ball, to bring it all the way back to where they started, and they ended up winning the whole thing, so Paulie was the new head of household.
They kind of did that as a way to be like, hey, sorry about the block thing.
Right. Well, it was also
good.
Yeah, it was not just that, but it was for the pack not to get blood on their hands. So they put Paulie in there, so that way he's like he's on their side, but he's like the only one that's not part of that alliance. Yeah. So just throw him into the head of household, and so not a lot of game talk in between, but the idea was just to figure out a way to get Victor out, whether it's through the front door or the back door, and it was decided that it would be best to have Victor go out the back door. So they nominated Paul Lee nominated Paul and Bronte, and that I mean, good decision, I guess. I hope both stronger competitors that could probably beat Victor if he ended up playing in the veto. So we then get to the roadkill competition. It felt like 4 different, like 2 ceremonies and 2 competitions all in one episode. So I was surprised they even got any game talk in. But they were all like, yeah, basically we're just trying to get Victor out. So,
yep.
So then they get to the roadkill competition, and can you explain what the roadkill competition was?
So the roadkill competition was that they were given like 8, I think, items. There were just like little souvenirs and stuff that were Big Brother related. One was like, why is Zebot there? Because Zebot's a fucking show staple, you idiot.
You're right.
So basically what you had to do, since it was BB 18, you had to add up the prices to $18. And the person who did that the fastest got the roadkill. Yep.
So, and everyone had to get that amount of money, and they kept on showing everyone going through it. At least this time we didn't have to watch everyone strip, which I'm sure that was great eye candy for some, but I didn't really care for it. But yeah, interesting concept, and everyone went through it, and then we found out that the winner was none other than the finance major, Victor. So, and already you have the people online that are just like, it's rigged, because the finance major won. But hey,
who cares?
It's also math.
You gotta do math.
Yeah, you also gotta know math. So don't.
And simple math too.
Yeah, that's whatever. I don't really. I think that should have been easier for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
People clearly are dumb on that show. So, anyways, Victor is now the roadkill winner, and he's gonna keep it a secret from everyone.
No.
No, he's not. He's not.
No.
Because the minute he got a chance in the storage room, he told no other than the person
trying to get him out. So, good job.
Yeah, good job. Polly is like, all right, well, thank you for telling me this. I'm gonna go now tell everyone. So everyone just kind of goes around, and everyone finds out that Victor is going to be dominating someone. And then Victor goes up to the HOH room, and the first thing he says is, "I hope you guys are not playing me," which is hilarious. And then, he starts saying, "Who should I nominate?" And I mean, it's either going to be I forget. I think he said James was one option, and I think Tiffany was the other.
Yeah.
And so I think Paulie ended up pushing him to go for Tiffany because Tiffany is apparently, according to everyone in the house, is an emotional wreck and probably would not be able to handle the block. And I think the reason why Paulie went for that is that Tiffany could easily throw in a competition, so that way Victor could not put up someone and be safe from the block. So Tiffany ended up going on the block as a roadkill, and Tiffany kind of went crazy in the sense that she got really emotional, really paranoid about being at the block, which in a way,
who does that sound like?
Yeah, we had a lot of PTSD flashbacks from last season, but I don't blame her. I mean, if you get put on the block, yeah, I mean, you're a vote away from being evicted, but
when everyone tells you you're safe, you gotta
yeah, you gotta just trust the system. I don't think I would volunteer to go on the block, but if I'm just forced on the block and I can't do anything about it, then you just have to trust people around you to be like, all right, I guess I'm safe, but we'll see what happens. So they then get to the veto competition, and they pick players for it, and obviously they're hoping Victor does not get picked. So the first name to pull out is Devon. Devon gets to play in yet another veto. So Devon Paul gets picked, and then all of a sudden Paul's name comes out of the bag, and Victor gets really excited because he's like, oh man, there's an ally. He can easily pick me, and I can pull him off the block. And what does Paul do? He picks Zakia. So rip Victor. It was,
the look on his face was just
sadness.
Oh.
Yeah. And then and then that led to a very interesting conversation in the kitchen with Paul just playing stupid and just be like, wait, what would benefit if I picked you or not? And so it was, that all happened, but and then all of a sudden Victor just kind of walked away and just got on the back of Frank and piggybacked out of the kitchen. It was really strange. I don't think I even saw that in the on the feeds. Yeah, I think it was just a show thing, but that was unique. So, Paul and so basically everyone's pretty much relaxed, and knowing that really no matter what happens, more than likely Victor is gonna end up going on the block. But the one worry that Devon and Paulie may have is the fact that Tiffany, if she throws the veto now. The goal for her throwing the veto would basically mean that she can't pull herself off the block. And if she did pull herself off the block, like we were talking about earlier, Victor would be able to put someone up, and nobody
else wanted.
Yeah, and obviously he would not put up himself. So, and I was thinking about this earlier this week too. I know this is going to sound really dumb, but hear me out. There is a part of me that wanted to be in that house, and I wanted to go to Victor, and I wanted to convince him to put himself on the block. And the way that I was going to do it is I wanted him to think about the fact that you don't have an amazing shot of being picked for the veto. You have 2 coins that get pulled, and there's like 10 house guests that are going to be picked. So yeah, you have like a fifth of a chance, but it's not that great of chances. So what if you have a 100% chance of playing in the veto and being able to to.
Can you put
beat
yourself on the block though with the roadkill?
Yes, you can, because it's anonymous.
Yeah, but like I feel like there should still be like a rule. Like, you can't put yourself on the block.
Because people can do it just to throw themselves off, to throw people off.
I guess, but why would you do that? Just nominate one of your alliance members to throw people off.
I just think that Victor has the intellect where I could convince him to do it for veto purposes.
All right, cool.
So what happens in the veto? What's the veto? Gocubs.
What was the veto?
Toes and spelling.
The toes.
Yeah.
So this is a classic challenge where you have to go through something. It's themed something disgusting each year, and you have to dig through. You have to dig through shit. Sometimes it's shit. Sometimes it's toe fungus. Sometimes it's like earwax, whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to find letters that each have a point total, bring them back, and spell as long of a word as you can.
Yeah. And this competition. It went through and everything. I guess the main event that ended up happening was Tiffany started counting the letters by Devon. Devon noticed that Tiffany wasn't actually throwing the competition, and just trying to save her own butt. So
Devon wasn't happy,
and Devon was not happy about that. But anyways, do we remember some of the words that were used?
No.
Well, all I know is that the winning word was sustainability. Yes. And that word belonged to Paulie. So Paulie did the double crown. The head of household and the veto belonged to him, and he had all the power this week. So everyone goes back inside, and everyone's pretty much decided, it's just gonna be easy. We're gonna put up Victor, whatever. What was the first... I'm trying to remember the first signs of, like... Oh, because I think people started talking about maybe this might be a good idea to get Tiffany out.
Yeah.
And so they started talking about that. And so,
like, the first half hour of Thursday's show was them talking about that.
Right. So, I forget what the whole scary thing that was happened on Wednesday's episode. But really, to sum it up, Victor goes up on the block, and Paul gets pulled down. So it's Victor, Bronte, Tiffany would be there going up for eviction going into Thursday. Now, usually we would just skip right to the eviction, but there is some important stuff that I'm not going to talk about for today, but also right this minute, but also later on, because we have some live feed things that are associated with that. So Thursday. They started showing clips of the 8-pack kind of falling apart. The story that they showed on the show is that essentially Devon started getting mad at Tiffany once Tiffany decided not to throw the veto, and Devon was kind of pissed about that. But again, according to the show's perspective, she didn't really do anything about that, and she kind of just decided not to do that. But then, I'm trying to think now of what happened on the Thursday episode, because it was much more in depth than people. Oh, okay. So Frank and Bridget, but Frank has been talking a lot with Bridget, and they seem like a pretty close pair, and like he kind of uses her as almost like a sister, like a little sister, but also like as his own spy. So they end up becoming pretty close. It's hard for me to talk about the show's perspective because I know the real story. So you know what? Let me just talk about the real story. The real story behind it is that Devon was always kind of not feeling good with Tiffany, really since the start of this week, and she has felt like she's very much like Vanessa last season. We want to get rid of that early. So Devon was the one that went to Frank and was like, Frank, Tiffany is going after you. Bombshell. That's not true. But that they have had quarrels before. They've have fought with each other before. They've had misunderstandings before. But I don't think Tiffany has ever actually said that she's going after Frank.
No.
So Devon made up this lie, basically of sorts, to make Frank start saying to other people that he wants to start targeting Tiffany. So he starts saying this to a bunch of other people, and he starts like having all these side alliances with other people in the house, and then that gives Devon the opportunity to go to Tiffany and say, "Oh, Frank is now going after you."
Yeah.
So
basically.
So Tiffany is now mad at Frank and wants to get Frank out of the house, and so is everyone else. People are sick of Frank basically making all the side alliances, saying to people that he shouldn't trust, they're sick of Frank giving Polly. This is another thing. Frank told Polly about the 8-pack, which was shown on TV.
Polly was not a part of.
And this, he wasn't upset about it, Polly, but he kind of kept it in him. But something they did not show was that Zakiya told Polly that very early on, Frank told Zakiya not to trust Polly. So
okay.
So it was really Frank was moving around all over the house, and then there's been scandals of him slapping girls' asses in the house. Frank, and there's just he's in a doozy of a pickle. The whole thing. They didn't really show that on TV, that Frank is as much of a pickle as he is. Devon kind of hinted at it, but she was seen as more of a victim in the whole thing, which is not true by any means. So now Devon goes to Tiffany and says, "Okay, yeah, Frank is going after you," and Tiffany gets mad at it, whatever. So now the 8-pack is essentially fractured and no longer exists. It no longer exists, and it's pretty much done for. So Devon ends up in the middle of a little situation now because Paulie and Zakiya want to team up with Nicole, Corey, and Devon. But the problem with that is that 5 alliance has 2 showmances in them. And I say 2 because Nicole and Corey are a showmans, and so are Paulie and Zakiya, essentially. So Devon's stuck in the middle of all of this.
Yeah.
And she caused it. She caused this. They did not show that on TV, and that's why I was so pissed last night, because I was watching it, and I was just like, they're making it like she just sat there and did nothing.
Sound like the good guy, or like
the innocent bystander.
Everyone's planning against her.
Right, and so you have this 5-person alliance she got put in, and then now she's in this isolated partnership with James, and an isolated partnership with Tiffany while she wants to get Frank out of the house. And now Frank is going to be safe. I actually, you know what? That's spoilers for later, but I'll tell you about that in a second. So, Devon and James... Devon went to James in the have-not room and started crying, and she was basically crying about a hole that she put in her own boat. So, I don't know, man. That whole thing, the whole thing is just, it was really mind-boggling, and I think even now I don't really understand what's happening. But as of right now, that 5-person alliance pretty much trust each other. I would not be surprised if people start turning on Devon at some point for just being a little ratty, a little lying all over the place. But yeah. So Victor goes home, by the way, and Victor goes home. It's
a 9-1 to 0 vote.
Yeah,
1 vote for Bronte.
Yeah, I don't know why Paul voted for Bronte. To me is so weird because during the live feeds he expressed a lot of hatred for Tiffany. Yeah. So don't know why he would vote out someone that was actually originally in his alliance, and the fact that he was kind of trying to showman's Bronte. So I don't know. So Paul did that, but Victor's out of the house, but he can get back in the battle back. So then the head of household competition happened, and explain what happened. What the head of household competition was.
So the head of household competition, the four teams were on like 4 different corners of this fake tennis thing, and they had to bounce balls off of a tennis racket into I guess like a pachinko drop kind of thing, but without the pegs. And then it would land in a number 1 through 21. Whoever's number was the lowest would get eliminated.
Yeah, and they went through the entire competition, and who would have guessed that the head of household ended up being Bridget. So Bridget is
keeps category 4 safe for
another week.
For another week.
And that includes Mr. Frank, who was basically enemy number 1 in the house. Again, something that he barely showed during the Big Brother broadcast, but something I'm glad I could bring people's attention to if you're not following the live feeds. Frank is basically enemy number 1. The fact that he won was catastrophe for people. Bridget was supposed to throw it. I guess that she just decided not to, or it just happened that way that she didn't. But yeah, so Bridget's now the head of household, and I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what she does. I know I already know some things that have already happened and stuff, but I'm not gonna get into that. We're gonna stick to what our predictions was, and again, must reiterate, I did my predictions before I started watching the live feed. So,
yes. Can confirm.
So, Gocubs and I, we can move forward with our predictions. So, if you want to go ahead and start, what are your predictions for this week?
So, with Bridget being the head of household, by the way, for last week, nobody got any points. We both suck.
Yeah.
We actually each predicted a nominee, but from the wrong,
section.
From the wrong section.
Yeah. So I think I said that Tiff would be a nom.
Just a regular nomination, but she was the roadkill nom, and I said that Paul would be the roadkill nom, but he was a regular one.
Yeah. So we didn't get points for those.
Yep. All right. So my predictions: Bridget is going to nominate Tiffany and Davon. Frank is going to win the roadkill and nominate Paul. Bridget is also going to win the power of veto 2 weeks in a row where the HOH also wins the veto, and she's not going to change the nominations. And then Tiffany's going to go home. James is going to win the next head of household.
Yeah. For me, I have Corey and Nicole being nominated, with Nicole winning the roadkill as well. And she puts up she puts up Frank. Frank ends up winning the veto, and then Nicole has to nominate Tiffany, and Tiffany goes home. So basically, Bridget does nothing this week. So yeah, I hope I explained everything well with what's actually happening in the Big Brother house, and I hope that the show kind of catches up too. Again, to do a quick recap, Devon's really a snake in the house right now. Frank's balls are going to be chopped off in a little bit.
You're not wrong, but still.
Right. And basically the 8-pack is no more, and that 5-person alliance kind of has been formed, but not really. And that basically leaves Michelle, Frank, Frank, and Tiffany on the outs, and James. But James again has a partnership with Devon, and a strong connection with other people as well. So we'll see what happens.
It's gonna go down.
It's a lot of alliances, a lot of confusion, but hopefully it'll all make sense next week, so I can talk about these things better.
Any more live feed updates that we need to know about? Christopher.
Corey made a joke about microwaving a cat.
Oh. That's not funny.
It's not funny at all, man. I'm laughing at just how Corey, how horrible he is, but also how we also poke fun of him for just being the bread of the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, and oh man, I'm trying to think, because Victor, he was pretty much nice the whole week, and he really thought he was going to survive. And I think the minute that he found out that Tiffany got no votes, that kind of realization stuck in during the eviction.
Do you think he would survive? It would be Big Brother.
What?
Well, see, he's not playing Survivor, so he wouldn't survive. So he's playing Big Brother, so he would Big Brother.
God. Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah. No, I understand.
Do you understand?
I quite get it.
I don't believe you.
I big. I know. Yeah, that's what it is. He is Big Brother. Big Brother thing.
There's
Big Brother. He's no longer Big Brothing. So.
There you
go. But no. So Victor's out. Who do you think between Glenn and Jose will win a competition?
Jose.
Okay, between Jose and Victor.
Victor.
Okay, so Victor, that's our. That's not gonna go into our predictions for play, but Victor. I mean, maybe a few weeks from now, once we know generally who the 5 evict. Oh man, I don't even know how we're gonna do this podcast because now I'm thinking that Friday is gonna be.
It's gonna be the competition.
It's gonna be the competition. So that'll be 4 Big Brother shows in 1 week. Jesus Christ, this show kills me. All right, yep. I don't have. I'm trying to think of any more live feed updates. Natalie and James are a couple too, kind of. They're cuddling it up.
Oh,
unique couple. Yeah, my winner's screwed, and James is gonna be floating. So, or no, I should say floating, but we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really have much else to say. Gocubs recommendations, anything?
Yes. I'm rewatching How I Met Your Mother, and that's a very good show.
Go watch it.
It's very emotional, and I'm trying to figure out what my favorite episode is because I do that.
Yeah.
I haven't found it yet. I know it's coming up soon. The ones that I'm like, yeah, this is probably my favorite episode. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. How I Met Your Mother. Netflix binge worthy.
Many Netflix things are binge worthy.
Yep.
Netflix and binge. That's what it should be. Why would you put it on Netflix and then have sex with someone? I just don't.
Exactly, dude. Like, there's so much good shit on there.
Right. Exactly. I don't get it. Unless you want to do the Netflix fireplace that they have. They just play the fireplace. It's like Yule log. Alright, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week for another podcast.
Wait, Chris, wait.
Yes? What's that?
Alright.